And I'm like, this thing's the best tool ever. And then after that, this thing's the worst tool ever. Hey everyone, Walt here, back out in the shed and back working on the Brumby. Feels like it's been a little while since I've had the time to do anything on the old girl, but hopefully over the next week or two that's going to change and I should get a bit more progress done on it. So what's happened since the last episode? Well, wheel bearing kits have arrived. I've got 2 of those, so that's a little bit of good news. The bad news is that I've got to be able to take that ring nut off in order to fit those, and I don't have a tool that will do that, nor do I have anything that I can make the right sort of tool out. I can make something to get the ring nuts off, but they have to be torqued up to something like 200 Newton meters when they go back on to help compress the bearings into place, and I won't be able to make a tool that I can measure that with. But I'm just in the process of ordering one of those tools from Subaru over in Aussie. The guy over there, Dave, very knowledgeable, good sort, super helpful, and he seems dedicated to keeping these old Subarus on the road, which is great to see. So yeah, hopefully I should have that tool soon, and then I can do the rear wheel bearing. So effectively that means I'm not able to do anything on the back end of the Brumby at this point because the wheel bearings is the next job for that. But in the meantime, Subrex have sourced me a rear gearbox casing, which is brilliant. You'll remember one of the earlier episodes, I dropped the gearbox on the floor and damaged that snout. So yeah, able to get a replacement one of those, which is great news. So at the moment, the gearbox is still in the car. So I've been having a little bit of a think and asking a few people and getting some information about those drive shaft angles that were giving me a little bit of grief before. Shout out to those that have shared some knowledge down in the comment section. Yes, I do read the comments, and very grateful for the information that people have shared there. So I think what my plan is while I'm not going to raise the car, I hear through the comments and through Dave at Subaru that I can lower the front cross member without necessarily raising the car, and it will make the engine sit a little bit lower, which will improve that drive shaft angle, and it'll also help fix some of the inherent issues with the Brumby's original steering geometry. So maybe it's probably best if I show you what I mean by that. Yeah, let's do that, eh? Let's go underneath the car and I'll show you what I mean. What I've done is, under here, these bolts, I've just backed them off and effectively lowered the cross member by 10 mils. You can see we've got a gap of about 1 centimetre up there. Effectively, that will mean the engine sits where it is now. That will make the sump quite low. That's my only hesitation about it. But what it does is, by lowering the cross member, which houses the inboard A-arm mount, well, it's not really an A-arm, isn't it? But anyway, that control arm, whatever it's called, it lowers that down, and so when the wheels are at full droop, you can see even now, there's a bit of negative camber, and what I mean by that is as the wheel comes down, it naturally angles outwards, which is not a good thing for your steering geometry. So by lowering the cross member a little bit here, it pushes that out and means the angle doesn't have quite so much negative camber. So this is what it will look like. Without those spaces, it would actually be on even more of an angle. So it'll help correct that, and of course the goal was to improve the handling of the Brumby while I'm at it. And the other thing it'll do, let's swing around to where the gearbox is and I'll show you that side too. Okay, so underneath it here at the gearbox, by lowering the engine, if you can imagine, we're going to tilt everything that way, and that will mean that the angle will improve on the drive shaft. So measuring it as it sits now, it's gone down from 7 degrees to 6, and that's not a huge change. But if you have a think about it, one of the things that I was concerned about with the drive shaft angle is the angle of the gearbox and the dipstick being at the front and the seal being at the back. Are we going to have all the oil in the gearbox flowing to the back, putting more pressure on that seal? And are we also going to have the dipstick now no longer reading accurate, which could be an issue when I'm filling it? Using the jack, I've just pushed it up as high as it will go inside here. And you can see it's actually hitting in two places. One there, that's the gearbox gear selector. And there's also a bolt right at the very top there that is hitting. Now, I've had to think about this, and I've had a bit of a look at the old gearbox. And the Brumby's gearbox uses this little device instead of that adapter up there. And on the Brumby, he actually sits up and would be up that way. But I'm thinking, why don't we see if he will fit on that way? If you have a look at the difference in clearance there, that's actually quite significant. And at the top, where that is hitting, if you can see, there's just a little mount or something there. I'm not actually too sure what that's for. I might have to go back through my old footage and see if I can figure that out and maybe have a look on the inside. But potentially I might be able to just push that bit up, and then I can probably have the gearbox go up by maybe another 10 mil or so at this end. And that might gain us another degree or so of angle improvement. So yeah, that bit's all looking promising. I'm kind of liking that we're starting to find some solutions here. It's good. Okay, so where does that leave us now? Well, I think the first thing is I still want to tidy up the engine bay a little bit. So maybe what I'll do is I'll get the car down off the hoist, and let's have a look at that battery tray that I was going to remove. Remember, it had a little bit of corrosion stuff in there. And I also want to check clearance at the back. If the engine's sitting 10 mils lower, does that mean that the airbox that sits at the back of the engine, is that now going to be fouling on what used to be the spare tyre bracket? And then I can probably yank the engine out and start work in that sort of area. So I'll go do that and we'll regroup in the engine bay. Okay, so we've certainly got clearance around the engine for it to sit 10 mils lower, but the thing that I wanted to check is whether this will still fit on here without fouling that. And it looks like it will. Oh yeah, there's heaps. There's heaps. Okay, so I think for now I might leave this guy intact. I don't think I want to pull him off just yet, but I might mark underneath there where the pitch stabilizer bar goes. So get him out the way again. So that pitch stabilizer bar that needs to run from here back to the bulkhead. In fact, he is just about perfectly in line with that tab, isn't he? Just about. Yeah, so he's running through about here somewhere. So somewhere underneath there, I'm going to make a mounting point for this pitch stabilizer bar. But I think I don't want to remove this until I know where that pitch stabilizer bar is going and whether I need anything else in there. But this battery tray down here, let me just show you that. This battery tray down here, I'm thinking I'll definitely take him out, but there's spot welds and around here and stuff, and there's no way I'll get the drill in here with the engine still in the way. So I think that's the next move. I'll yank the engine out and then get this guy out. I can clean up all that surface rust down there, hit it with a little coat of paint, and away we go. Pump, 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 pump it up. Okay, while this arrangement is all up in the air and at a nice height to sort of show you guys what I'm talking about, you remember this was one of the things that was impacting clearance. This selector coupling, if you will, was fouling the side of the drive tunnel. And basically it just clamps on using a pin by the look of it, which is the same as the Brumby's one, onto this shaft. Now this shaft goes in and out, so that's for your forward and back in between, like say first and second gear, but it also rotates left and right from first to third to fifth and reverse. So that's all very good and well, and obviously we need something on there that will replicate it, but this one's quite wide and that does hit the tunnel. But looking at it, it looks very, very similar. So that is, call that 16 mil and 15.99. I think that'll work. I think that's going to go on there. So on the Brumby, this selector shaft is further down towards the bottom, and this guy on the Brumby actually sits upwards. But I see no reason why he can't sit that way down, and then I'll just do a linkage from there to the gear selector, or gearbox, gear lever, whatever you want to call it. And it looks like they're secured in the same manner, with just a pin driven through, similar to what they do on the drive shafts. This one is just the pin. On the Brumby, someone had actually put a split pin through it as well. So pinning a pin that holds the selector onto the shaft. Seems a little bit redundant, but anyway, obviously Subaru trusts these pins to hold the drive shafts on. Can't see it being a problem with those, but even if that pin isn't the same size, what are we looking at here? 8.1, 7.9, maybe that might not go in there, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if that's a snug fit. But even if it doesn't, couple of options. Just off the top of my head, I could tap it and have a set screw or grub screw, whatever you want to call it, or even just put a M8 bolt all the way through with an eye lock on the end of it. Regardless, which is what they've done here anyway. It's not an eye lock, but it is a self-locking nut. That's what they've done here, and that's what's fouling on the side. But if it's a smaller one up and down, we'll gain some clearance. Then of course there's also this guy here, and he was impacting the little bump, whatever you want to call it, indentation on the top of the drive tunnel. So I can't do much about that guy on the gearbox, but I will jump under and see whether I can get a little bit more clearance out of that tunnel. So the gearbox is going to need some work. I'm going to have another go at trying to clean this up. I've got a little steam cleaner, so I might hit it with that. And at some point I need to pull the back of this off, replace this housing. Remember, this is the one that got snotted when it landed on the floor, and I've got the replacement one to go on there. So yeah, this guy has to come off regardless to get that guy off. It doesn't look like this actually has a gasket. Anybody who's pulled apart Subaru gearboxes before, if anyone's ever replaced one of these, please let me know in the comments. I'm guessing it will be obvious once I pull it apart, I'm sure, that looks like there isn't a gasket, so therefore it's probably just a little smear of sealant and you're good to go. I don't know, that's my guess, but if anyone knows for sure, let me know. I've pulled motorcycle gearboxes apart, never a car gearbox, so that'll be a first for me. You might just remember from when I was giving you guys a tour underneath the outhouse that there was some oil leaks, and I suspect these guys might have been contributing to it. So I might try and get some more. That's where the front axles go in, and I suspect maybe that seal has just seen better days. So I might get some new seals for that. So yeah, all up, a little bit of a birthday for it. I'll yeah, try and clean it up a little bit more. My last attempt wasn't very good, and replace those seals, replace the snout, figure out whether I can use this guy on there, and then I can leave him off to one side. All right, so been having a little bit of a tidy up in here. I think I've got everything organised. Let's just see if we can give you a bit of a look at this. So yeah, I've gone around with a wire wheel and just tried to clean up where all the spot welds are. Hopefully I've found them all. There's a double one over here for some reason, but counting both of those and the ones down underneath here, I make it about, I make it 15 spot welds. So it's quite a few. It's not an insignificant number. This is my first time actually trying to drill spot welds out, so this could be fun. But I do have the proper spot weld drill bit, so a little pointy bit locates the center over the spot weld and hopefully holds it there, while this bit drills the metal around the spot weld. So yeah, I suppose I just got to give it a try and see how I get on. Going to be challenging in that corner, I think. Yeah, over here we've got quite a bit of wire that's in the way. I've tried to sort of loosen it so I can get it out the way, but it is going to interfere a little bit with that back bit. But let's give it a go. Maybe I'll start with one of the easier ones just to see how I get on. How do you know when you've gone far enough? So yeah, that's the one that I've just drilled out. I can't really flex that material. Oh yeah, I can a little bit. Okay, so I think that's gone through. I don't want to go through the metal underneath it. I just want to drill out the top bits, and then hopefully that will lift off. And on that one. Okay, so it turns out this guy really wants to wander, even with the centre pin. I'll get the ones that I can, and then I might just drill a tiny pilot hole. No, it's just wanting to wander. Okay, pilot holes it is. Okay, so I might just use a 2.5mm drill. It's only teeny tiny. Before I go too far, I suppose I should check that my theory is working. Oh, it still wants to move on me. It's definitely not as sharp as it was when I started. That's not very good, is it? 3 holes in and it's already blunt. Now I do have another side on this. I can unscrew that, turn them around and put them back on with fresh teeth. But when you compare those teeth to those teeth, after 4 spot welds, they've gone from that to that. Yeah, this one's now split and lost a tooth. Okay, let's do the straight ones first. I've still got some teeth on here. Oh man, that is ridiculous. Oh no, look at the state of it now. It just keeps getting worse, doesn't it? Not only is it worn out in absolute no time, did 4 holes beautifully and then very quickly gave up the ghost. So it's kind of just wearing its way through rather than cutting now. But anyway, this hex on the end is not your typical, what is it, 1/4 inch I think, that's normally used on most bits like that. Instead, it's 7mm. Anyway, go figure. So I've had to get a little bit creative. So we've got a 7mm socket, an extension, and then an adapter to get the extension into here. So let's see if that will allow me to get to these more tricky ones. I think the problem is that now we don't have all the teeth on there, it's not biting evenly and it's just trying to skew off to one side. I really wanted to get this out today. No. Well, that is very frustrating. First couple of spot welds were brilliant. And I'm like, this thing's the best tool ever. And then after that, this thing's the worst tool ever. One more spot weld to drill. And then the others are probably actually through enough that I can just pop them off. Got most of them off. That one didn't quite get all the way through, but I was able to pop them off. That one is loose, or it's gone. There's one here, and that's that double where they had 2 goes at it. So, but I can't get enough pressure on there. The bit just wants to wander. These guys underneath here, these 5, definitely the end one is off. These ones are all still a little bit tight, so they could probably do with a little bit more drilling out. This bit was brought from a local tool shop, so it's not like it was some AliExpress or Temu special, but it certainly performs like it is one. But I'll have to take it back and see if they've got more bits for it. Anyway, not to worry. Can't stress about it. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. It's so close and yet so far, so let's find something else to work on. Maybe I'll have a look at that drive tunnel. Okay, I've just quickly chucked the car back up on the hoist. And if we come under here in the drive tunnel, see just in front of where the gear shifter goes, that's the lump that the gearbox is actually hitting on. You can actually see the witness marks from where the bolt has been hitting it. It is hollow, that's not threaded, doesn't go all the way through. Looks like maybe that's just a drain hole in case moisture ever got in there. I don't know. It looks reasonably structural. They've added some strength in here, obviously. But that is stopping me from getting the gearbox up by about another 10mm or so, which would really help with our angles. Does anybody know what that is actually for? Is there supposed to be something that goes in there? If you know, please let me know, because I'm contemplating getting rid of that in some way, even if it's just flattening it with a hammer. But I don't want to do anything that's gonna damage it and make a mess. So yeah, if you know, drop a comment below. I decided that I might as well stop messing around and get a replacement one of these, because I can't go very far without that. So I went back to the tool shop that I got it from, and they have giving me the usual story of, oh, we've never had any issues with them. But anyway, they've given me a replacement one. So let's see if I get on any better with that. I mean, realistically, there's only one more spot weld, maybe two, depending on how that spot weld is joined, that need to be drilled out. And then there's a couple of other ones that I just want to tidy up because I don't think the original cutter actually got in deep enough into those spot welds. So nothing for it but to give it a go, I suppose. And I'll get that hole all the way cut through. There we go. Go with brute force and ignorance. It's going to be a bit hard on the tray, but it is rusty anyway. Resistance is futile. I'm not going to let you win. So this guy is a woodworking chisel that has seen better days, so nowadays I just use it for any nasty little task. Don't do this with your good woodworking chisels, that's for sure. Oh yeah, that was a mistake. Yeah, definitely a mistake. So unfortunately, the chisel has cut into the sheet metal on the bottom rather than the sheet metal on the top. So the sheet metal on the inner guard rather than on the battery tray. Oops. So it's this corner that's given me grief, which is the one that has been the hardest to drill out. Now, part of what's giving me grief is it wasn't just the one spot weld. This weld melted the edge of the material, so there's actually weld happening there, and then they've tried twice more on this side. You can actually see a bit of an indentation, if I can show you. There's an indentation there, which looks like that's where they tried to push the spot welder in initially. Then they've reseated it, and they've kind of got a spot weld going over here. And then they obviously decided that wasn't good enough, and they did this one over here last. Now that one is still too close to the edge of this ridge, because you see there's a little bit of a profile change there. I can't get the cutter into that area, so I can't drill that spot weld out. So yeah, it's welded there and under there. So when I ran the chisel along here, I was hoping it would stay flat on that metal and push the tray upwards, but it hasn't. Looking a little worse for wear, but it's out. So yeah, I just chopped off where those 2 to 3 spot welds were in one cluster, because I was just never going to drill those out. Unfortunately, I did drive the chisel through into that area under there. So you can see, got a little bit of a gap in there now. Yeah, I can probably just TIG weld that without any filler. I think that'll be okay. So I'm going to have to grind all these little spots off. And then there's a couple ones here where I'm just going to need to try and fill that a little bit if I can, where I've actually cut into the material underneath. Pretty hard to judge just how deep you're going with that, that cutter. But that should give us a little bit more room for the air box, the air filter box. So I think that's all in all pretty good. A little bit rough, a little bit rougher than I would have liked it to have been, but job's done. So I spent a little bit of time messing around with the gearbox. I said I was going to give it a clean up, which I have attempted to do. So you remember when I dropped it, and yes, I'm still kicking myself about that. When I dropped it, it was while I was pressure washing it. So I'd taken it outside and pressure washed it, and I had used a little bit of Brumby as well, just to try and bring these casings up. But they've kind of got a mixture. I mean, in places it's grease, but a lot of it appears to just be like baked on dirt, really ingrained dirt. Reach out to the Brains Trust out there. If any of you guys have a great way to get all this crud off the gearbox and make it look pretty again, drop a comment down below and let me know if there's a nice easy way that I can get these cleaned up and looking good again without me having to spend hours of just elbow grease. But I've already put quite a bit of elbow grease into this, and there's a long way to go. So I'm definitely open to ideas. If someone can teach me a new technique or a new product that'll bring these up looking good, let me know. But yeah, I think that's about all I've got time for today. So it does feel good to have gotten the tray out of the engine bay anyway. So I've got a bit more cleaning up to do there, but that shouldn't take me too long, just to wire wheel that, clean it up, get it ready for some paint, fill any gaps and holes and that sort of stuff. And hopefully by the time I'm next out here, I should have had a delivery of a few bits and pieces, which will mean I can get started on doing the suspension. Quite keen to get that done. In the meantime, as always, thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Brumby Build.